welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining. It is January 11th, 2025, Season 5, Episode 2 of Skeptic Generation. I am your host, Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Hey, everybody. So I am flying solo today, and I am going to need callers. So I want to put the word out that if you have been waiting to call, I have a topic that I need your help on. So let me kind of set the stage for it a little bit, right? Last week, when Tori was on, we talked about managed opposition, right? We talked about how we sometimes can condition ourselves to be just effective enough to legitimize the opposition, but not enough to actually affect change or be a well and functioning other party. I think that I received some feedback. People were saying that I was being a doomer. And it's interesting because when we talk about skepticism, right? Skepticism is about questioning what is underlying the world around us, right? Better understanding it. This is Skeptic Generation, right? It's more than just about religion. And I know that this audience is people who have largely had to deconstruct your entire worldview, right? If you grew up in a religious household, you have had to break down your understanding of how the world works, what morality is, why we should be moral creatures, what the importance of community is. Is it to worship an almighty God, or is it something else, right? Why should we act like good people even if there's not a cosmic goodness out there in the world, if there's not a morality that's just ever present in the fabric of existence? We have deconstructed those things and we added those to our toolbox. I've talked about it for years, right? Your epistemic toolbox, the tools that you use to break apart and understand the world. You kind of need to take it apart first to understand it, though. You kind of need to take it apart so that you can go, hey, why are things the way they are and should they be that way? Well, I think that accusations of doomerism happen when we aren't taking skepticism and using it the way that we already have, right? So let's use these big brains that we've been working with, right? And working on. Let's use this toolbox because I think that it is actually going to really benefit us moving forward if we do. So the prompt today is, I want to know what you have deconstructed. What is it outside of religion recently that you've needed to break apart and better understand? Because I think there are a couple of things that we really need to break apart to better understand. If we don't, gosh, you guys, how can we possibly see a better future if we don't understand the problems that are undergirding our present? So I have a few. I'm going to provide one example. I'm going to put up the phone number first, and I would love to get callers in. Talking into the camera is something that I can do for a while, but it's not something I can do for 2 hours. So if after a certain amount of time I can't get callers, I'll probably need to wind up ending the show early. I really don't want to do that. We'll see where things go. Let me get the phone number up here, and then I will give an example. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Again, that's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Our call screener is on the line, waiting to hear from you, waiting to talk to you, and I would love to hear what your opinion is. The first example that comes to mind for me is the big one. Not everybody lives in the Pacific Northwest. Heck, I just moved out here a couple of years ago, but I did live on the West Coast, and so the big one is a concept that I've heard ever since I was little. But for international viewers or people who are not on the West Coast, the West Coast of the United States lies along a major set of tectonic plates that are active. It's why there are so many earthquakes. And where I live in the Pacific Northwest, it's even crazier. So there's a mountain overlooking Portland, Oregon, where I live. But it's not just a mountain. It's a fucking volcano. And it's not the only volcano that you can clearly see from any backyard in the city. You can pretty regularly see at least 2 more. And on really clear days, you can see up to 5. Right? I grabbed this graphic to just show, right? Every red triangle on that map next to me is a fucking volcano. That's wild, you guys. It's not a question of, one other image that I grabbed. Let me just throw this up here. Right, we have Mount Hood in the front. That's the one that overlooks Portland. You have Mount Adams, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, which is the one that blew about 20 years ago, I believe. And there's one more, and the name is escaping me. So, well, we're just gonna move on. I'm just gonna move back to this graphic because this is gonna help. When we talk about the big one, we're talking about the big quake that's going to cause the next volcano to erupt or a tsunami to hit the West Coast in a really big way. And even if neither of those things hit your house, the shaking, the earthquakes that come from, large seismic activity, it's going to fuck your shit up. It's going to fuck up infrastructure. And that is not something that is an if, it's a when. We're not worried about if it's going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen, but the big one will happen. And if it happens tomorrow, here's the thing that I'm working on deconstructing. Will FEMA get sent here? For people who are watching internationally, that's the federal aid that gets sent for disaster relief to the states in the country, right? When it comes to support to California, during Trump's first administration, Trump really wanted to withhold funds to California for helping them. And then again, this last year, when wildfires again tore through California, Trump really tried to withhold funds. His specific response was, well, how many of them voted for me? This is not a administration that values all Americans. And it is well known that this area that you see in this map, they didn't vote for Trump. This area, specifically Portland, the city that I live in, has been a point of attack. It has been claimed that there's widespread rioting, that there is just massive destruction of property, that drug addiction, fentanyl abuse is just creating a zombie plague through the streets of the city. These things aren't true. City is fine. Farmers markets are still happening right in the middle of town, and business as usual is going on. But sorry, I'll get there. The reason that this is up is because I have had this confidence that being a state in the union, right, being part of the United States means that when disaster happens, that disaster relief will come. I've needed to deconstruct that. It sucks, but I needed to. There's just no way around it. It is what it is. And it feels the But if you've been wondering why people like me have been talking about mutual aid, if you're international and you're very confused about why we're talking about mutual aid, this is one of the reasons. If something bad happens, we can't guarantee that we're going to get the help. I have several others, but I want to hear from you. I'm going to put the phone number out one more time, and then I do have a caller that I'd love to talk to. But first, the phone number again, 412-753-7436, or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Our call screen's gone through one person, and we want to talk to more. In the meantime, let's talk to Austin in Maryland. Austin, you are live on the show.
Hey, how you doing, Eric?
Hey, I have been better.
Yeah, it's been a week.
It has been. So things have escalated in the United States. Obviously, there was a shooting in Minneapolis. A woman was shot in the face, and then the next day, 2 people were shot by ICE in Portland. I don't know if you heard that second one, but yeah,
I did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have a good friend in Beaverton, so.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah. That's just right next door.
Yeah.
So what's on your mind? What's going on?
So I think that I really was sort of aligned with you from an ideological standpoint last week. And I guess I wanted to kind of talk through the term doomerism, because that's something I've been seeing a lot.
Yeah.
I think I saw it a lot this summer, when the whole situation in Los Angeles was sort of happening. And then I think it went away for a bit because maybe things were less visible. This past week
in Los Angeles, are you talking about the aid for the wildfires in the Pacific Palisades, or are you talking about what specifically?
I appreciate that. That's a good clarifier. I think that I'm talking more about the National Guard deployment, but I feel like the wildfires, the aid that a lot of people are still waiting on, I feel like that's all in some ways a very connected situation.
Yeah.
But I guess if we're going to narrow it down, I'm speaking more about, National Guard deployments, things like that.
Okay.
Protests against ICE and their operations in the Los Angeles area. And I guess for me, I feel like I've been seeing people accused of being doomers quite a bit more recently over the past week. Specifically, the idea that, and this is something that I see a lot, I think the idea of a lot of the people being called doomers is just from my algorithm, what I'm seeing is whenever somebody says that we're not going to be allowed to have midterm elections, I think they get accused of being doomers quite a bit or engaging in doomerism.
Yep.
I think the pushback that I will give, so I think that there is legitimacy to the idea that we will not be having free and fair midterm elections. And I think that is something very important to talk about and very important to organize.
Yeah.
To try to prevent as much as we possibly can. That being said, I think that it is irresponsible to say that our elections have ever been free or fair.
This is true.
And I think that is a very white, capital L liberal principle rather than a lowercase L. Like, when we talk about liberal democracy, that's like lowercase L liberalism, whereas, the movement being like more capital L liberalism, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And
I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Maybe Democrat? Like we should probably figure out terms that we're going to use here.
That's fair.
I think that liberalism and the Democratic Party aren't necessarily the same thing.
I would agree.
And same with leftist is not the same thing. So I definitely am hearing the accusations of doomerism from Democrats.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Why do you think they're saying, quit being a doomer?
And this is just again it's so hard because I feel like we often don't have a common set of facts anymore, in that all of our algorithms are so different, right?
Yeah.
um I guess from my standpoint, what I see a lot of is this idea that elections are still something that are going to save us, and that the idea of discounting whether the elections are going to save us means that doomerism is something somebody is engaging in.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I am not saying that we should not mobilize, try to engage with our community, and assume that we will have elections.
so
That being said, go ahead.
no, so I totally agree. And
Yeah.
honestly, like I wrote this down as a prompt in case people weren't
Mhm.
moving in this direction or wanting to talk about it. So like I'm really glad you're talking about this. Now, I want to flesh this out with you a little bit more.
Sure.
Especially because international viewers do not understand this part.
Hmm.
So, one of the accusations that I've read is all you need to do is get rid of Trump. All you need to do is put a Democrat in office.
Hmm.
And it sounds like you're saying that that would not fix things.
No,
Why?
I think that Vance is coherent and less rattled by dementia,
Okay.
and that's almost a little bit scarier.
So,
Um,
but
Go ahead.
even if tomorrow the Trump was impeached, the administration was replaced by Democrats, do you think that they
Hmm.
could fix things? What was broken?
No, no, we
Why?
had 4 years to do that, and nothing was fixed.
Well, but we didn't have an authoritarian regime under Biden,
We
and
did not.
so that's the thing that gets pushed back at me is, well,
Yeah.
obviously it's better than Trump. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts? Do you think that why do you think that that wouldn't fix things?
So my standpoint, and I kind of want to couch this in my own previous
Mm-hmm.
history in evangelical Christianity, if I can. But I'll sort of start with Biden. Um, while I think that Biden has become a scapegoat for a lot of things, I do not think that the sole responsibility for where we are rests on Joseph R. Biden Jr. Um, I think that the idea that we could, after 2016, go back to our original system of democratic norm, lowercase d democratic, I should probably say, um, democratic norms and rules and decorum. I think that Biden seemed, at least to me, to be under the idea that we could all come back from this. That after January 6th, that he could pull a Ford and pardon Nixon, metaphorically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and we could all just go back. And I think that the moment was missed for us to have very true and honest accountability for what I mean. January 6th is sort of just the tip of the iceberg, right? We must be clear that this was a lawless president from 2016 to 2020.
So let's let me take a step back because you're couching that in something else that I think that we need to further deconstruct.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So first off, I hear you when you say that you know Biden wanted to go back to the way things were, but I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that Biden was, and the administration, and by the way, the Democratic Party, like not just
Mm-hmm.
Biden, but the Democratic Party wanted
That's
to,
important to point out, yeah.
yeah, wanted to take the moral high road. And the moral high road was more important to them than fixing things. There are, and have always been, two different types of positions in government, right? There's the, hey, you're really good at this job. We need somebody who's good at this job or has these qualifications to get the job, so you get the job. And then there are political appointments, right? Under the first Trump administration, a lot of just jobs that you get because you're qualified became political. People got kicked off of their jobs and political appointments were put into place. Biden, because he wanted to be seen as fair, as equitable, and as everyone's president, because he wanted to be perceived as taking the moral high road, he honored those appointments. It was more important to be seen like that than it was to get the toxicity that was put into place actively out. And so, you can say, yes, it wasn't all Biden's fault, but honestly, like, a lot of it was very intentionally not taken back. One thing that was talked about that absolutely got overshadowed by January 6th was the tax plan that Trump had signed into place for the next 5 years. It was
that Biden allowed to continue.
Biden honored it. Why did he honor it? Because he wanted to take the high road. We can talk about all the great things Biden did, but I'm sorry, when you're facing down an authoritarian regime that was not hindered by you, it definitely feels like it should say he took the moral high road on his epitaph.
Yeah.
But what
I agree.
What gets me is when you said lawless. Talk to me about that. Do you think that the legal system in the United States is something we can implicitly appeal to?
I used to think that, and I think that that's actually something that I would point out that I have deconstructed, because I think that, and that's a fair point, me saying lawless means that by one degree or another, I am appealing to the U.S. legal system as a method by which things are better. And I would say that I've absolutely had to deconstruct that. I think that it's been very clear that, I'm a white person.
Good
the legal
you.
system works in my favor. Right?
Until this
by and large.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's incredibly important to point out right now that the quote unquote, I'll couch it kind of in that quote unquote lawlessness that we are seeing is the same state violence that has been inflicted upon minority communities in the United States for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now being directed against the white liberal population.
Yep. So why did you feel like you need to deconstruct the legal system? Like what is it that has lost your confidence there, and why?
I think that it has become abundantly clear that if you have enough money to curry favor, purchase a pardon, or offer a good or a service that somebody in the elite population wants, then your justice is not the same as somebody else's justice. And that the justice system has been misapplied on purpose.
Okay. So you said your justice versus somebody else's justice. That's different than what I've heard for most of my life. Mm-hmm. Because most of my life, justice was whatever the Justice Department meted out. There was no your justice or their justice. In fact, talking about your justice is a call to vigilantism, which is, by a lot of people's definitions, not justice. So
I see your point there. I guess my gentle pushback on that, while I don't appeal to vigilantism, I think that, anybody's definition of terrorism is going to be different than somebody else's definition of terrorism. I mean, let's be let's be clear for a second. The Black Panthers were called terrorists.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the sticking point for me.
Well, and also, being against Christianity or being anti-fascist is currently defined as terrorism now.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, we don't need to go back to the Black Panthers for that. We can look currently.
You're right.
So I kind of want to follow this thread though. So it sounds like you're saying that if a wealthy person is convicted of a crime, you don't think that they're going to get an equitable shake to someone who's not wealthy.
I think if you are a white wealthy person, there are mechanisms by which you have an easier time in either the prison industrial complex, or you have an easier time reducing your sentence or conviction in some way.
Absolutely. Okay, so what about for non-rich people?
I still think you receive a more equitable shake. You might not be able to curry favor in the same way.
So, well, I guess let me say that again. If you are not a if you are a non-wealthy person in the United States, it has always been assumed by me that you would get a fair shake. If you were accused of a crime. Do you think that we should have that assumption?
No, I don't. And in retrospect, I don't think that that's ever been the case.
Okay. Why?
I think that when you compare the justice that a wealthy person receives versus the justice that a non-wealthy person receives, you are receiving, I mean, we have the concept of being granted an attorney even if you cannot afford one. However, I don't think we can compare a public defender to somebody like a Cochran, right?
Sure.
I think that justice can be misapplied inadvertently because one cannot pay for excellent legal representation.
Yeah. No, I agree. And do you think that if you are arrested, especially if you're, I don't know, Latino like me, do you think that you would have confidence that you're ever going to see a trial or a courtroom?
No, because more than likely ICE is going to be called.
Yeah.
Currently, now, historically speaking, even going back to 2003, when ICE is a concept, I think that is the case too.
So I agree. I think that we can look to like Kilmar Brago Garcia and see someone who was accused, who was dragged, very, very, very publicly as far as accusations, and was absolutely, they tried to punish him without ever giving him the chance to see the inside of a courtroom.
For months. And I guess my personal connection to that is like, as a Marylander, that was something that hit very close to home for our community. Now, I don't pretend to live in the same neighborhood, or,
Now, I believe Go ahead.
I just in the sense that, for better or for worse, we had a Maryland senator, actively involved in that, traveling to El Salvador.
Right.
Whether that did any good, I think that it was something that it hit close to home for a lot of, people in Maryland that feel similarly.
I agree.
In the same way that I think, that, the events that have occurred in Portland, I think that is sort of hit very close to home for people in and around, the Portland area.
Oh, yeah. So pretty regularly ever since, ICE will station themselves outside of schools with guns forcibly stick people in the back of cars as they're picking up their kids from school.
Yeah.
That's a thing that has pretty regularly happened. Now it's not uncommon to get an alert that that's happening, and people close their windows and shutter their blinds, turn off all the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. I think I want to get back to your original statement of doomerism, because
Sure.
I think that doomerism is a thought-stopping technique.
I agree. I don't think it's doomerism to speak clearly and factually about where we are.
Right. And I think that the only way that we're actually going to see a world that fixes these problems is a world that can soberly look at itself and say, here's what needs to be fixed.
I agree. I don't think that, I mean, hypothetically, right? Let's live in a hypothetical world for a second. I don't think that hypothetically the Democratic Party taking control of the House of Representatives and the Senate means that, I mean, you might have a little bit more oversight, but let's be very clear, this president does not seem to care about Congress or their actions in the slightest.
No.
I mean, we are on week 3 of Epstein files supposed to have been all released, and has that happened? No.
Well, absolutely. And like, I also want to state, especially for international viewers, again, who are watching, Austin, if Democrats took the House and the Senate during the next election cycle and they overwhelmingly impeached the president, do you think he would leave office?
No, not at all. And it would be a month-long Supreme Court battle ending in him being supported in some way.
And even if not, the country
he could just say no. I mean, the Supreme Court could say you need to leave, you've been impeached, and he could just say no, there's fraud, there's corruption, and I'm not going to allow it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have, even if we had I know most European nations have some sort of a recall system. Not only do we not have that here, I don't think it would work even if we did.
I'm so sorry. Could you say that again? I had a technical issue pop up and I didn't hear what you said. Could you say that again?
No, you're okay. I just mentioned that, most European parliamentary systems have a system in place for recalling either representatives or a prime minister or something to that extent.
Yeah.
Not only do we not have that system, I also don't think that it would work even if we did.
Correct. I agree. So what do you think would be required for things to be fixed? What do you have any solutions? Maybe we can escape the doomerism accusation if we can start talking about what solutions look like.
I think that it is very likely, and before I get into the positives, I don't think that we need to accept that this is our reality. However, I do think it is likely to be much, much, much worse before it gets the slightest bit better. I am not willing to say that this is the way that we will be in this country forever.
No.
Because, I don't have a crystal ball. I have no mechanism by which to know. What I will say is that I think that what you've been talking about with mutual aid is very, very important. I think that, and again, I'll sort of go back to, my own roots. I was in the rooms 20 years ago when this was being planned. In the sense that we were told that, I was in youth events, right? As an evangelical Christian.
Yeah.
I was told that one day we would rise up, we would create a country that was based on biblical principles, and we would take the mechanisms of government and we would create essentially a theocracy. I think that this has been planned for a very long time, and the people in this administration have been part of building this power at the local and eventually state level to the point where they are exploding onto the national stage because they have planned for decades. Since I think you could argue go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I do want to push back just a little bit though, because that's another piece that, like, again, like we're using these tools, we're breaking these things down a little bit more. Austin, do you think that if MAGA got everything that they wanted, it would be a theocracy?
I do, actually. I think that I might be wrong in that, but I think currently my way of thinking is that they would.
I actually disagree with you.
Ooh, okay, go ahead. I'm interested.
Yeah. I don't think it would be a theocracy. It would be a dictatorship. I think that the Christian part of Christian nationalism was really, really useful. But I think that if they were to really care about their Christian values, Austin, on January 6th, 2020, a massive group of people went into the halls of power wanting to lynch Mike Pence.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Pence was the heart of the Christian, goals in that party. They wanted to lynch him. I think that if Christianity was the driving force in MAGA, they would not have wanted to lynch Mike Pence.
Okay.
I think that when you get wrapped up in this kind of movement, I can imagine that there are a lot of people who still think that their Christian values are being upheld. But I really don't think it is, like, factually laying it down, looking at it. I don't think it is getting closer to a Christian theocracy as much as it is hoping that Christians are going to validate a dictatorship.
Okay.
All right, like it's strongman politics, to me at least. I'm happy to be wrong on this, but I think that there are a lot of Christians that I know personally that are just like, this is not leading God's kingdom. If we invade Greenland, what part of Christianity is getting upheld?
It's not.
Right.
I get what you're saying, but I think where I'm coming from is more, I think that the kind of the impasse we find is that I think what I'm speaking of more is historically how Christianity has been applied. And I think where you're going, and I don't think either one of us is wrong. I think that where you're going is more what's on paper versus where I'm saying is what's been applied in the past.
Correct. You're absolutely right. And I think that Christian part of Christian nationalism really did a lot of the lifting. I think that it was motivated a lot, especially by wanting to repeal Roe v. Wade.
Oh, I was told as a child that I needed to go to law school so that I could get on the Supreme Court so that I could overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
That was an explicit command that my father gave me. And now I don't want to couch, I feel like I'm saying couch a lot, but I don't want to talk about, I'm not here to talk about my own trauma.
No. But I don't think that's... It does inform things, and it really helps that we can use these to break apart what we're talking about. I think that if you were a Christian and you saw what happened in Venezuela, you're not going, yes, we're closer to God's kingdom. And I think that it would be wise of us to talk to Christians and say, hey, is this advancing your goals still?
Yeah, no, I think that that's very important. I can agree with that. I think we can appreciate the opposite perspective, though.
I think honestly, Christians who don't want to see dictatorship should be just as ready to join up and fight against this dictatorship as soon as they saw that their values were no longer at the front of what was being decided.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me, and I'm trying desperately, the news cycle is brutal, so I'm trying desperately to remember where this was, where there was either a minister or some sort of person of faith who was in, traditional garb, who was protesting outside of some ICE facility and was pepperballed in the head. Am I making that up, or was that an event that occurred in Portland or Los Angeles or somewhere?
I believe it was in Portland, yeah.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is because that was the first thing that I saw that I talked to my parents about, and they said that was wrong and that shouldn't have happened.
Yep.
These are people who were willing to forgive what occurred in Minneapolis the other day.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important to mention as well, because she shouldn't have been there, et cetera, was the excuse.
I think that we can look to history about the other side of this. There will be another side of this. There will be an end to this. And when that end comes, people like your parents, and my family, by the way, as well, will forget that they were ever a part of it. They will actively deny
the revisionism. Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't even following orders. They were just not there.
Yeah, never happened. They're still gonna have,
or it wasn't as bad, or it wasn't as bad as we say it was.
Yeah. I have one more for you.
Sure, I'm always game.
Yeah, I appreciate it. These calls are what's going to keep the show going. Like, I can't monologue for an entire show. We do have...
No, you're okay. If there's anybody else after me, please cut it off when you feel it's appropriate.
No, so what's funny is 3 people have been calling in and keep dropping.
Okay.
There's one international caller who's called in 3 times. Their name had an umlaut, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But try to call in again. Well, I want to hear from you. We're getting several. There's one in looks like Pennsylvania as well who's calling in. Hopefully they'll be able to get through. I think that this accusation of doomerism, again, we were talking about, I kind of brought up that I think it's a thought-stopping technique. I think it is a thought-stopping technique that Democrats are using on leftists.
Oh, yeah.
To say, hey, shut up, just vote Democrat.
Donate, act blue, etc.
But I think that Democrats would assume that they can use the court system to fix things. And you and I just talked about how there's not as much confidence that the court system is going to fix things.
We already tried that. It's important to understand that that was already attempted.
Yeah.
And it was unsuccessful.
So, who actually has been calling this out in a prescient way? Now, I really hate to say that this guy is smart in any way. Truly, Austin, I don't like saying this.
Are you going to drop Newsom?
No, I'm going to drop
Steve
Bannon.
Did you see the news about him, actually?
What?
There was a report that he might run in 28 as a mechanism by which to pressure other candidates.
So Steve Bannon, several months ago, was speaking to a PAC about needing to drum up and keep this support to enforce loyalty in the Republican Party. And he's recorded talking about how if we lose, there will be a set of Nuremberg trials, and they are going to be tried.
I did, yeah.
Steve Bannon knows that.
Mm-hmm. I actually think he's wrong.
Why?
I don't think that any of them ever will.
So here's the thing is, if we don't have this conversation, I think that Democrats are absolutely not going to want to see this go to the international court.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we should really talk about how this is going to get fixed. And if we don't have confidence in the judiciary is going to need to earn our confidence. And until then, the world is going to need we're going to need to earn the confidence of the world as well. And I think that that's going to need to happen in the international court. I think that it will need to be the ICC. It will need to be a kind of Nuremberg trial. And honestly, Steve Bannon has been saying that they are going to be tried. They are going to be held accountable if they don't secure power.
Do you think that will happen even if we aren't a member of the ICC?
I think that
because we currently aren't. I'm willing to be wrong, but my understanding is that we are not.
So we've backed out of a lot of different like climate obligations, a lot of aid obligations, a lot of support for, democracy in other countries and helping starving people, yada yada yada. But we're still in a lot of treaties and stuff. We have further to fall. But
NATO.
Yeah, I do think that the ICC is going to want to co-opt whatever comes out of the other side of this.
I think that if that is to occur, yes. And I think that what is fascinating to me is that I think the actions in Venezuela may be the precedent that they utilize.
So, it's funny, talking to historians about it, if you're talking about like a tipping point or some inflection point politically, who the fuck knows what it's going to be? It doesn't need to be a big thing. It could just be whatever it is that finally is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, I mean, just our own history, right? Like, it's fascinating what we're, quote unquote revolution. Well, no, I'll call it a revolution. I think that's fair. Leading up to 1776, it's fascinating what were those tipping points, right? The Boston Massacre, one of the people killed is Crispus Attucks, right? Who expected that person to be an American tipping point?
Yeah. Honestly, you have more knowledge than me of that. I do just...
My understanding is that, and I could be wrong, and I truly hope that somebody corrects me, but I believe it was Crispus Attucks, and I believe he was a freed black man. Who was either one of the people killed or the sole person killed. My American history is probably a little bit fuzzy at this point, so I truly do hope that somebody corrects me, either through a call or the comments. But I think that, to your point, we don't always know what the tipping points were. I think that in looking to a lot of people this week, I think that they have said that this week has been significant. I don't know if that's the tipping point that we're looking for, or we as humans are so interested in pattern recognition, which is why I think we call these people Nazis a lot. Yeah. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that that's our pattern recognition kicking in.
I think by the way that we should just start calling them ICE. I think that they've earned enough frustration that when you call them the Gestapo, I think you're trying to borrow from vileness that you don't need to. They're ICE.
Mm-hmm. I would also say that I think that a lot of if you look at the social media channels that are coming out of a lot of this administration, I think that they are purposefully trying to lean into what we are saying about them.
How so?
Like if you look at a lot of their rhetoric, especially the Department of Homeland Security, where they are featuring these AI images of like all white families saying defend the homeland, or
soil.
they are explicitly utilizing. I mean, they are exclusively white nationalists. Let's not pretend that they are not. But I do think that there is this entire administration, and in 2016 as well, became very, very good at essentially the largest form of internet trolling we've ever seen to provoke a reaction. It's still important to call it out as white supremacy. Like it is white nationalism. However,
yeah,
they are very good at it.
Yeah, the white nationalism is pretty intense. It is making me think of recent things that I've been seeing, that it's been escalating, and it's not new.
Absolutely.
We've just been pretending like it wasn't the case. I think that a lot of Democrats, when seeing accusations like that, we've gotten used to rolling our eyes. We rolled our eyes when white supremacists will go out and say it, when they've protested, when they've gotten, even going back to culture war stuff. I mean, this is it. This is that culture war that we all rolled our eyes about. We didn't take it seriously, so here we are. I think that the upside to this isn't that we sit there and go, oh, everything's fucked. No. But we do need to hold things accountable. And when the time comes for us to actually speak up, we need to say, hey, don't you fucking dare try to use the court system that we have. The only reason you would want to use a broken system is if you want the same broken result. It needs to be better. We need to demand better. If we're going to see this country move forward, it needs to be one that can move faster. That can actually have the teeth to go, okay, you're out of power, and then remove them from power. And yeah, I mean, obviously, Austin, I'm on the same page as you. I think that it is worrisome, especially talking about losing faith in the justice system. But the two things that keep coming to mind for me is, number one, pretending like it's the case is not going to make it the case. We're just fooling ourselves. And number two, self-policing because you're afraid. Like I think the one thing that I really, really got frustrated with watching the governor of Minnesota this week was him saying, don't give this administration what they want.
I'm tired of hearing that.
Specifically, I'll tell you that here in Portland, we have been called every name in the book. We've been accused of burning down our own city. We've been accused of massive riots and all of that. It doesn't need to actually happen for us to be accused of it and for them to take action on it. Giving them what they want is the assumption that they're actually waiting for you to do something. They're not. They're going to accuse you of it.
Absolutely. They don't need a pretense.
No. So
they're going to do everything that he says he's going to do, he will do.
So, and has done. So if you are now an international caller, I've got 2 U.S. callers on the line. I'm going to be taking them, but I want to see international callers. I want you to listen into what we're saying and now call in. What are your thoughts? Do you think that we're just being controlled opposition? What's going on internationally that we're missing here? Or is there any context that we're providing that's helping you understand what problems we have? Austin, thank you for this. I really appreciate your call.
of course. And if I can just say one more thing before I hop off.
What's up, brother?
I think that what still continues to bring me hope, and I am not a doctor. I will not be clear, I cannot be clear on this, I should say. But I think that it has become very clear that he is not altogether there. And I'm not saying that is going to fix our entire problem, but I think that these are ultimately still the actions of somebody who is desperately losing support and who is very deeply ill to some degree.
I think that they're assuming that Democrats are more effective than they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that whether or not it's illness, I've been having a pretty deep conversation for the last few weeks about medicalizing opinions that are not my own.
Mm-hmm.
And how deeply unuseful that is.
I'll take that.
I think that when we pathologize opinions that aren't ours, we remove the autonomy of people who are making active choices. And even if
that's very true,
even if, let's say we just assume, let's just assume, what if Donald Trump really did not have a single thought in his head?
Oh, I think he does now. I should be clear. I'm sorry.
But if he didn't,
yeah,
what is happening is not just because of him.
No, this is an entire mechanism that he has created or helped to create.
I don't think so. I think the mechanism comes from J.D. Vance. It comes from Peter Thiel. It comes from Project 2025.
Stephen Miller.
Yeah. So,
I agree with that. I guess that's the reason I said that, that's not the only thing. But anyway, no, I appreciate the conversation
totally
as always.
Then, Austin, I love that you called. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I'm welcome to be, proven wrong, or if somebody thinks I am a doomer.
Well, we have a caller who wants to,
yeah.
We have a caller who wants to talk about doomerism, so let's see where we go from here. Austin, take care.
Thank you, Eric. Have a good one.
You too. Oh, we have someone named Bjorn who keeps calling from Sweden. I am so sad to see that it keeps dropping out. I hope that we can get that going. Let's talk to Herbert in Pennsylvania. Herbert, are you in Pennsylvania?
Yes, I am.
Are you a damn Yankee? Is that maybe that's the problem? Have you considered that you just being a damn Yankee is the problem?
No, because I don't live in the South. When I lived in the South, I was a damn Yankee.
No, you'd be a Confederate. Yankees were what Southerners called Northerners, right?
A damn Yankee, as it was explained to me when I lived in Alabama, was a Yankee was someone from the North. A damn Yankee was someone that moved to the South that stayed there.
I didn't realize. Herbert, what is on your mind?
Yeah, I want to talk about doomerism.
Okay.
I think it's,
let's talk about doomerism.
I think it's a tremendous problem. I would say Austin was a doomerism, and if you give me a minute, I'll explain why.
Okay.
Austin didn't call up and say there's risks to the midterm elections. He said that there won't be any midterm elections. And what that does is that affects voter turnout. If people don't have faith in the elections, then they won't turn out and vote in the elections. Now, every single Democratic official that talks about elections talks about the risks that Donald Trump is creating in the elections. Are you familiar with Mark Elias?
The name comes to mind, but if I'm not as
Mark
familiar, then I'm sure the audience is. I'd love some info from you. Who's Mark Elias?
Mark Elias is the most hated lawyer, the lawyer that conservatives hate the most in America. He works on voting issues. He is an ally to the Democratic Party, but I think more importantly, he's an ally to the Democratic process, lower D democratic process, and he votes for voters' rights. He works for voters' rights, and he talks all the time, and he works all the time on securing the elections. And it's one thing to say that there are risks to the elections, which there are. It's another thing to say that the elections are going to be invalid, or the elections won't happen, because that leads to people not turning out, and that's doomerism.
Okay.
But I'll give another example here where Austin was talking about his concern about. Go ahead. You had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the elections piece, and if what you're about to say is more kind of evidence on the elections piece, I'd love for you to be able to give it. I don't want to interrupt you, but if not, I'd love to talk to you a bit about the election stuff.
Okay.
So, I hear you, and I think that this is a really good clarification, because what could be useful about what Austin was saying, what I was saying about, elections coming up for next year. I think that if we are losing confidence.
Can I interrupt you real quick, Eric?
Yeah.
Because I think there's something that I could say that could really shorten this here.
Yeah.
And that is, those that are doomerism, I don't think they're wrong in their fears. I don't think that they don't have valid points. I think they're presented in a way which is destructive. So there are valid points with concerns about the election, but saying that there's not going to be an election, where the elections aren't going to be free and fair, are counterproductive to turnout.
So I think that we can frame this in a way, and I think that I would love to use this to kind of leverage into another piece here, right? I think that if people are afraid or worried that elections are not going to be free, fair, or even available next year, then we should not be sitting and waiting for elections.
Mark Elias is not.
And we're not Mark Elias, and we shouldn't be expecting Mark Elias to do all the work either. I think that people should be finding out how they can volunteer with polling. They should find out how they can get involved with getting people to the polls.
But why would they do that if they believe that the elections won't happen? Why would they do that if they believe the elections won't be free and fair? To say that we're doomed, which is exactly what Austin's statement is.
No,
we are doomed.
No,
will not be free
hold
and fair
on.
elections.
That is not what Austin said. That is the accusation that we're pushing back against.
No, Austin said there won't be elections. There won't be midterm elections. That was Austin's first statement when he went on air. You can rewind it. That's what he said.
Okay. Let's take it at that. If you're worried that elections are not going to happen, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? What should I do about it? Because it sounds like you're saying that what I'm going to do, what we should do is curl into a ball and cry.
Are you saying, no, I think you're missing my point here. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have concerns. I'm saying that we shouldn't make statements like there will not be midterm elections. We should not make those statements. That's doomerism. To tell people that there will not be free and fair elections is a doom statement. That is a conclusion. That's not talking about the risks. I want to talk about the risks. I think it's great if Austin would have called up and said, I have concerns, and I think we need to be proactive and take steps to make sure that there are free and fair elections. That's far different than to say there will not be. That's my point.
I think that at the current pace of things, it's not out of the question.
I already said that there are risks.
Right.
I
Yeah.
to make an affirmative, a 100% statement is what I have a problem with.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on because I didn't want to talk about voting. I want to talk about where Austin said that he had problems with the poor not having adequate defenders. And so in the comment section, I put down, then vote for candidates that support proper funding of public defenders, right? I hear a problem. I suggest a solution, an imperfect solution, not the perfect solution, but a solution, a way to move forward. And I get a response from an individual who says, the American Empire's voting system doesn't allow for voting on discrete topics. You're stuck with whatever the less evil candidate advocates, not what you actually want. Again, this is doomerism.
No, that is fact.
Right?
That is fact. That is exactly what I was told when I was told to vote for Hillary.
Was I
and
talking
I did.
about? No, I wasn't talking about whether or not we should have a direct democracy. I was talking about we should vote for candidates that fund public defenders.
And if the Democrats don't put up that candidate,
about whether or not I wasn't talking about whether or not whether or not we should have a direct democracy. I wasn't talking about whether or not we have quality candidates. I wasn't talking about any of that stuff.
Okay.
I was proposing that we vote support proper funding for public defenders. That's not a perfect solution. It's not the only solution, but that's what I was saying. And I get a kickback. I get said, you can't vote for direct democracy. I know we can't vote for that. Like, why are you saying that to me? What's the point in saying that? They're not even addressing what I said.
Right.
It's not even a discussion it's not even the solution that I was talking about.
Why do you think they said
the fact that you want to bring up something that I agree with in part, but evil can't. I mean, come on.
What?
It's just unreal that you would think that when I talk about it, do you agree with my statement that we should vote for people who will properly fund public defenders?
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay.
And also,
if you don't agree, then address that directly.
Yeah, no.
But to say that
I do think though that there's something that needs to follow. Yeah, there is something that needs to follow, and what needs to follow is I wanted to support a candidate who was going to free Palestine, but I didn't get one. And
right? No, but that's not even the topic.
So why do you think the sentiment?
That's not even the topic. I could bring up the topic that I think I could bring up a completely unrelated thing too, and say I worry about the logical ability of atheists that were once encapsulated in the evangelical movement, right? And that's a legitimate fear. That those that become atheists after they were in the evangelical movement may have problems with logic because of the way they were raised. That's a legitimate fear, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Okay. So
that has nothing to do with the discussion that's being had. I offer a solution,
yeah,
and I get a kickback. You're in an evil empire. You're not going to get what you actually want. Like, that's not the discussion that's being had.
Okay.
Palestine's not the discussion that's being had. I wanted to vote for a candidate that would recognize Palestine's rights. That would push back against Netanyahu's war crimes. Let's be
charitable with their interlocutor then. Right. Let's be charitable with our interlocutor and see. Right. Assume the best. What do you think they could be trying to say that is related to what you said in their response to you? What do you think could possibly have motivated that in their head to say that? What do you think they were trying to say?
I think they were trying. You want me to go through an empathetic exercise where I try to look to see why this person's telling me that you can only get evil candidates, and that I guess because they think that that we shouldn't discuss discrete solutions until we revamp the entire American system. I mean, that's the only logical response is stop discussing discrete solutions for the problem at hand until we revamp until we have a direct democracy.
So I think that
which is insane.
I actually really appreciate your feedback on that. So can I restate that so that I can see if I got your, like, I want to understand your issue, your specific, like, what you're saying, and I want to repeat that back to you to make sure that I got it.
Sure.
Okay. So you're saying that we need to vote for people whose opinions we agree with when it comes to their platform so that we can see the change that we want to see. We're not talking about direct democracy where we can vote on discrete issues, but we can at least vote for people who we are aligned with on goals that can include those discrete issues.
No, that's not what what are you framing here? Are you framing what my initial comment was?
Yes.
No, my initial comment was about supporting public. No. I was not discussing direct democracy or supporting candidates. I was discussing a solution, not a perfect solution. It doesn't solve all the problems, but what I was discussing was how we can address the fact that poor people don't get proper representation.
Right. And
that's what I was discussing.
And your solution was what?
My solution is that we should support people who want we should support candidates. My solution is that we should support candidates we agree with.
Right.
My solution was the policy, which was we should support candidates that are for proper funding of public defenders.
Okay, I believe that's what I said. What I said was
what you said. What you said is that I was saying that we should support candidates that align with us, but that wasn't the topic that was being held. That's the problem with doomerism. I was discussing one specific thing, and everything else gets brought into it, a completely different topic. Okay. I wasn't discussing how we should vote for candidates that align with our values. I was voting what our values should be.
Got it.
I was discussing what our values should be.
Got it. So I think that the accusation you're bringing up is whataboutism. You're accusing the person of throwing whataboutism at you, right? This is an unrelated thing.
Doomerism is whataboutism, and it's also you're fucked. It's also give up.
No, it's not. There's a good reason why I'm bringing this up, right?
The American Empire's voting system doesn't allow for voting on discrete topics. You're stuck with whatever the less evil candidate advocates,
Herbert,
not what you actually want.
Yes, Herbert.
Okay, you're fucked if we don't get to a direct democracy. Okay, I'll be more accurate. Until we get to a direct democracy, you're fucked. Because that's what that statement says.
That's what it says to you.
No, that's what it says.
No.
It says you cannot get what you actually want. You're stuck with an evil candidate, a less evil candidate, but an evil candidate until you get to a direct democracy. That's what that statement says.
Okay, so I'm going to try and bring up an analogous scenario that this is.
No, you tell me what that statement says. What does that statement say?
I think that if I give you my direct answer, you're going to push back, and so I want to try and give you an analogy to help illustrate my point. Right?
Okay.
So when I was deconstructing my faith, and I had the whole issue of, like, can God be all loving and bad stuff still happen in the world? Right? I was told that, God has to be all loving, because if God isn't all loving, then, or God has to have a purpose for you, because if God doesn't give you a purpose, then everything is pointless. I feel like the only reason everything feels pointless to somebody in that religious standpoint is because they're operating on a very specific paradigm. It needs to be this way, or everything's fucked. Right? When a Christian says, well, if God doesn't have a purpose for you, then there's no reason to do anything, and all crime, it doesn't matter, right? What they're saying is that they can only see things through a specific paradigm. And when they're viewing things through that paradigm, either it's this way or everything's fucked.
Who am I in this analogy?
So I think that you have a view of democracy, the way we talk about democracy.
No. The topic was not democracy. No. Who am I in this analogy?
You're the Christian in this analogy, Herbert.
No. The Christian in this analogy is telling you to shut up. I am not opposed to having a discussion about direct democracy. That's just not the topic we were having. The Christian in this analogy is telling the person to shut up and have faith. I am not doing that. I'm perfectly willing to have a discussion about direct democracy. That's just not the discussion, the topic that was being had. No, the
Herbert,
Christian in this analogy, again, is telling you to shut up and have faith. That is not what I'm saying.
That is
I'm
not
saying
true.
shut up and have faith.
That is
I'm not saying shut up and have faith. I'm not saying shut up and have faith.
Herbert,
The Christian's not telling you to shut up?
that's not true, though. In my
What's not
experience, the people who say if there's no faith, then there's no, or if there's no God-given purpose, then there's no purpose in the universe, isn't necessarily ever somebody who's just saying just shut up. Often,
No, what they're saying
saying,
is have faith, don't ask questions,
No.
don't question God.
No.
Yes, they are.
no,
Yes, they are.
that is the effect of it, but that is not what.
Then what are they saying? Tell me what it is that they're saying.
This is the solace that brought me comfort. This was the answer that made me stop and go, okay, I'm satisfied with the result. This is what worked for me, and I hope that it works for you. This is what I had, because I had the same question.
Have I ever expressed comfort at all when it comes to, like, I'm perfectly open. I'm not saying have comfort in America's way of doing it. I'm saying get involved, get engaged, be informed, bring solutions, discuss the topic at hand. I'm not saying that I have comfort in the way that America's run. I am the loudest voice at every Democratic convention I've ever gone to. I'm the loudest voice screaming at Democrats how they're doing things wrong.
Good.
But when I'm talking about a discrete solution, and somebody else comes in and they tell me that until we have a direct democracy, that we're fucked, which is exactly what that statement said.
That
you have an evil candidate until you have a direct democracy. That's what it said.
No, it's interesting that you can paraphrase other people, but as soon as I start paraphrasing you get really
stuck
upset.
with whatever
Sounds,
the less evil candidate advocates. You're stuck with whatever the less evil candidate advocates until you have a voting system that allows for discrete topics. I'm not paraphrasing it. I'm rephrasing it. I guess it is a paraphrase, but. Yeah, you can paraphrase me. Do it accurately, as I'm doing here.
Okay.
You can paraphrase me all you want. Do it accurately.
Herbert?
I was not saying that I have comfort in this in America's system, and don't bring that up. What I am saying is that's a completely different topic. And you're also saying that my solution is not viable until we completely change the American system, and that's doomerism. That's what I'm saying.
Herbert, I'm going to answer you now. I'm going to finish what I'm saying, okay? So I heard that, and I actually got an entirely different result. And as I started to explain it to you, you interrupted me, and you said, no, that's not what it is. You forced it that direction, and then we've gone down around the block twice.
No, you gave me an analogy.
I'll say this
that
again.
Was inaccurate.
I'll try and say this again,
tell
right?
Me what that said.
If somebody says, like the statement that you were talking about in the comments, the way that I took that, I can paraphrase as, it's only useful if you can vote for somebody whose goals align with yours. And if you don't,
that's not what that said.
If you don't have somebody,
it doesn't allow you to vote on discrete topics. Until you do, you're stuck with a less evil candidate.
Okay. So do you want to? We can talk about the issues undergirding that. We can talk about the specific topics if it's like lawyering about what the person said in the comments.
I'm not lawyering.
Okay. So then
I'm being as honest as I can with you here, Eric.
I know. I hope you know I'm trying to do the same, buddy. So let's talk about the issue here. I think that there's a different issue. I think that the issue that was brought up in that comment was that it was not specifically about direct democracy. I think that the issue in that comment was about if you don't have somebody who you can vote for that actually voices your goals, then you're kind of fucked.
The American Empire's voting system doesn't allow for voting on discrete topics. You're stuck with whatever the less evil candidate advocates, not what you actually want.
Yeah.
I was the one talking about voting with someone who's aligned. I was talking about the topic. That's not what they said.
Okay. So the piece that I took to heart was that second piece is that you got to vote for the lesser of two evils.
And then when I call up and I engage this individual because they're your call screener, I engage this individual and said I want to talk about your comment. They wanted to type in Herb has a problem when someone pushes back against him. Something to that degree. And no, that's not at all. If you disagree with me on how we can vote for candidates that support funding public defenders, then push back against that. Listen, I'll quit being a viewer. Okay, I'll quit being a viewer. Take care, Eric.
Okay, I'm sad to see it, but take care, Herbert. I think, I appreciate people like Herbert because I want people to push back politically. I do. But I'm not always going to agree. And I think that the useful things are when we don't agree. And I still need to learn how to have these conversations about politics. I can have them about religion. But politics are a different animal. I think that if you think that doomerism is the statement that everything is fucked, so give up, or just everything is fucked, call in and tell me. Help me. Help me understand Herbert. Help me understand you. Because when I bring up like counter apologetics, things that break down my understanding about religion, I am growing as a person because I'm learning to ask really important questions so that I can find good answers. It is a starting point in finding out that I still have more work to do. When I'm talking about deconstructing my worldview when it comes to, government systems, that's what I'm talking about too. I want us to find those starting places. I want us to break down things that aren't useful or are not true. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on and talk to Ethan in Michigan. Ethan, you're live on the show.
Hey, can you give me 2 seconds? I just finished getting my fingers greasy. I need to wash.
How dare!
I'm sorry about the bad timing.
No worries. I'll pop you back in the queue. And
I think we both need a minute after that anyway.
No worries. Thank you. All right. So in the meantime, I'm actually going to get Ethan's name ready in the lower third because I am doing this on my own as far as like producing this part. So let me get that. He, him, Michigan. All right. In the meantime, we do have, we've got room. After I talked to Ethan, we have several people who just have been dropping in and dropping out. But we've got plenty of room for callers, and I would love to talk to more people. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. We want to hear from you. And oh my goodness. Union organizer in Sweden wants to talk about international perspective and keeps having issues and dropping out. I'm really sad to see it. Hopefully we can get that call back. I'd really, really love to see that conversation. But in the meantime, let's see if Ethan is back and ready. Ethan.
Hello. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So talk to me. What's on your mind?
Excuse me. Well, first I want to say you were having that conversation great. He was just trying to bulldoze over and yell over you whenever you tried to understand what he was saying. You were not causing the breakdown there.
Well, I think that when people care a whole lot, they get upset. And sometimes I get upset too, and it just means that I care a whole lot too. But I feel like the best version of me is one that can contextualize that when somebody's speaking loudly, that often it is because they're speaking with their entire heart. And that's what I got out of talking to Herbert. I didn't get necessarily that he was bulldozing. And I understand that some people can feel that way, but I want to be more charitable towards him than that. I do think that he was very, very passionate. But anyway.
Passionate people can talk like adults, though.
Not always. Jesus,
They should be able to, though, is what I'm going for.
You know what? Let me start there. Let me tell you, Ethan, why you're the problem. Okay. So, Ethan, I feel like, did you watch last week's episode when we talked about managed opposition?
Most of it, yes.
Okay. So we talked about how we kind of get in our own way by falling into weird patterns. One of the ones that really got me was how like in 2017 we were talking about Republicans as reactionaries, and so we'd moralized being reactionary as a bad thing. And so when the time comes for us to understandably be reactionary, we all went, oh God, we can't do that. You know?
Dude, I've been in chat talking about things that'd get you demonetized if I say it right now. You know damn well I'm not saying that.
I know. We'll save that for Signal. But Ethan, I think that saying that adults talk about things with a level head. No, getting angry, yelling, getting upset. Those are things that are perfectly available to us and should be, understood as passion. But I don't want to conflate. Like a placid conversation with a mature conversation.
That's what I mean. The difference between being loud and passionate and just talking over the other person who's trying to talk with you is what makes the difference here, at least in my book.
I think that if you let me, I'm probably going to try and give people every benefit of the doubt that I can come up with, because
I don't have that in me anymore.
That is something I have moralized when it comes to wanting to be a good interlocutor. Can I be better? I think the last caller could tell you that I could definitely be better.
I give people rope until they show that they don't deserve it anymore, is my approach.
Okay, but if we're going to go that way, I think Herbert has deserved a good amount of leverage. He's called me out in the past, but anyway,
Yeah.
let's.
Yeah.
I feel weird talking about
What
something
I
that's not
actually
on the
called
air.
for. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So what's up?
So basically, I'm just calling for clarification because, and I figured it might be a fun conversation. When you were talking with Austin, and he brought up the United States not respecting the ICC. And it was my understanding that that's been the case since Reagan, but you seem to have information otherwise.
I believe that Obama moved us into like observer status. And to be clear, like each administration, it feels like when it goes blue, we get more involved internationally, and when it goes red, we pull out internationally. But I think that let me see if I've got this right. The Nuremberg trials were created by a newly formed international body, right? In World War I, we had the League of Nations.
So much cooler of a name.
It doesn't, right? And then it was a new body that was created after World War II. I think that we can call it the ICC, or we can call it whatever it's going to be called when that happens. But I definitely do think that the larger point there is international accountability for war crimes.
Yep.
So I don't think that, like, when I say that Steve Bannon is saying there's going to be a Nuremberg trials if they lose, he's not specifically saying that it's going to be in Nuremberg.
Right.
So I think that when I'm talking about the ICC, I'm not necessarily saying, but I do think that like that kind of international accountability is what I think we would need in order to start rebuilding. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with that.
Is there anything else that you can say on YouTube, not Signal, that you've been deconstructing? Like, what in this last year have you gone, oh shit, I had an understanding of things and I realized that I need to use the skeptic tools. I need to pull out this, you know, how I understand things and maybe reform the way I'm thinking. Has that happened to you this year?
I think so, but I can't remember any specifics. But I have been trying to better understand the delineation between communism and socialism, because I'm one of those idiots who can't resist responding to idiots online. And that's a useful bit of understanding to have.
See?
That I just have been having a hard time grokking.
Can I feel like I want to respond to idiots online, but Ethan, I have this sneaking suspicion that I'm one of them.
Well, you're not the kind of idiot that I'm talking about. But yeah, I get you.
I think that
you're not one of the ones talking about Jewish space lasers.
No. But it is interesting seeing like Nick Fuentes, the biggest white supremacist podcaster that exists currently. He's Latino. His last name is Fuentes.
Mm-hmm. It's a Dave Chappelle sketch, for fuck's sake.
What the actual fuck? Blows me away. By the way, I saw a clip from him this last week where he was saying that he would absolutely vote for Gavin Newsom over JD Vance. Do you know why?
Other than the couch fucking?
Other than the couch fucking.
Then no.
Gavin Newsom married a white woman and has white babies.
Yeah, that makes sense. I forgot about that part.
It's unbelievable.
Yep.
So I would love for you to investigate the difference between communism and socialism. My understanding of them is under very different contexts. That communism has to do with a response to the Industrial Revolution, and has to do with people owning the means of production, and you create an alternative to capitalism, right?
Right. Socialism doesn't have to be exclusive with capitalism, right?
Yeah. So the way socialism was explained to me is, and I could be totally wrong. This could be absolutely, and please tell, people call me out if I'm wrong, but the way I understand it is that socialism came about with a kind of a really popularized kind of mathematics, statistics. And statisticians were using this tool all over the place, and they were starting to quantify the needy, quantify poverty, quantify hunger, and all of that. And it was this view that, oh my gosh, I have a better understanding of just how many people don't have what they need to survive. And so, socialism as a concept is kind of based in this, okay, we have a social responsibility to the needy. So you can have a socialist capitalist state. You can have a socialist communist state. But you're addressing different problems with different, you know what I mean, solutions. And they can be similar, but they're not the same.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, call me, guys. I'll put the phone number up there because I'm happy to be told that I'm wrong. 412-SKEPGEN, that's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN, that's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. What do you think, Ethan?
I think that certainly helps me understand it a bit better. I appreciate it.
So here's the thing that kind of kills me.
Mm-hmm.
Is like Marx thought that you need capitalism. You need to go through capitalism to get to communism.
Right.
Right. And I think that those systems are just
inherently exploitative.
God, that is such a better way of saying it than I was thinking. Inherently exploitative is a wonderful summation. Yes, Ethan, is inherently exploitative. How are you ever going to get to your end goal when everything in between is inherently exploitative? Fantastic. But then you take a look at you take a look at the current administration taking away funding to to needy families in 5 states because they don't like him.
Yeah.
A socialist system requires benevolence. That's more power than I want to put in the solution, I think. I think I like socialism as a concept, but I think that requiring an all-loving government is more than I currently have confidence in.
Yeah.
To be the full solution. I'm not saying that socialism's bad. It's more of a personal issue with the inherent exploitation in having that much power and expecting one entity to be the solution to everything.
Yeah.
Just me? Any tankies?
No, I get it.
Yeah, if any tankies want to call me and tell me I'm wrong, call. We won't hear it.
Yeah, I absolutely get that. It's definitely a system that we'd need safeguards with actual teeth, unlike what we've got now.
Yep. I think that I want to see a system that has teeth. I want to see checks and balances that are actually able to do those things. I hope we can get there, Ethan. I really do.
Me too.
All right, before I let you go,
I was just going to say I have one final thought before you let me go.
yeah, what's up?
But no, you first.
Let me. Oh, I was just gonna say I want to take a look at my notes and see if there's any other really big thing that I wanted to bring up, and I think those were all of them. So, what's on your mind?
Okay. Oh, just that South Park making JD Vance tattoo was an inspired fucking choice.
I have not seen it.
Oh, it's fucking great.
What is it?
It's making him tattoo from Fantasy Island.
Oh. Oh, God. Oh, dear God. I wish I hadn't Googled that on air. Anyway.
At least you weren't streaming. Yeah, it's not something that's aged well, but at least he was cast alongside Ricardo Montalban and not a white guy.
Yeah, I'm just, goddamn.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, I do want to say that. Well, I think I might take one more call. But Ethan, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
I'm always glad to call in on the very rare occasion I have something to call in about. You have a great day.
You too. While we get this last person screened, I think that my goal this year has been to try to bring useful things. It's not just about complaining. It's not just about reacting to what's on the news. We need to not get in our own way. We need to have a clear understanding of what the problems are. And if we can't talk about them openly, honestly, how are we ever going to solve them? I don't think we could. I genuinely don't. So let's have the open conversation. Let's have the honest conversation. Yeah. I don't think FEMA would come if the big one came to the West Coast right now. I don't have enough confidence to be comforted by that thought. I think that if I got arrested on an accusation tomorrow, I don't think I would get a fair shake. I don't. And I think that the party that I turn to push back against this has demonstrated itself to care more about the optics of taking the high road than it has making solutions happen. And I'm very frustrated by it. And I think that we should talk about it. If you are watching this internationally, this is what's going on. I would love to hear from you internationally about if you're seeing similar things happen. But we're going to have to get there. I know that next week I'm going to be having Atticus on, and we're going to be talking about performative allyship. Let's get allyship right. People want to talk about it, and there's a lot of issues there. So let's see if we can kind of get some things nailed down. I still do want to take one more call, but I know that we're going to be running right into the end after that. I usually read super chats, no super chats today, and that's totally okay. So I am comfortable moving into our final call for the day. Alice in Oregon. Alice, you're live on the show.
Well, hey there.
Hello, a fellow Portlander.
Yeah, what a crazy week, huh?
Please tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong about the big one. What?
I'm so sorry to say you are so very right.
Son of a bitch. I don't like that at
Yeah.
all. Okay, who are you and why the hell should I listen to you? Why should I believe you? You Satan.
Okay, so quick background. Yeah, in post Katrina, Bush dumped billions of dollars into the hospital preparedness project, and I was on the ground floor to get all of the training that came out of that when the experts agreed that problems happened because of lack of communication, lack of standardization across first responders and first receivers. Hospitals are considered first receivers during disaster.
Okay.
And so I was on the committee that decided on how to spend that grant money. And so I was involved with all of the planning. And so there's some good news and bad news. And before I get into that, it may sound like I'm trying to scare people, and I'm not. I'm simply trying to say it's real. Let's be prepared. And so when you talked about, that graphic is the one we showed in trainings, and that
That's funny.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when it happens,
Okay.
it's going to be long. When we hear about the San Francisco earthquake that happened that brought down the Bay Bridge and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
that was a magnitude 7 that lasted 45 seconds. Cascadia will be 3 or 4 minutes
Jeez.
of shaking. And so it moves across from the ocean, so the coast will be 9. The tsunami will be huge. The next 40 miles on the west side of the mountains will be an 8. The I-5 corridor will be a 7. To the east of the Cascades will be a 6. And Redmond will be 5. And so we're talking about those parallel things. So again, I'm not trying to scare people. I'm trying to educate.
No. It's important. All that made me realize is that I'm recording from a basement, which means that you do not need to worry about me. I'll go quickly.
Yeah.
The reason I really, really want to bring up the big one and FEMA disaster preparedness is I feel like there is a bit of a pushback when I'm talking about mutual aid, about us creating community resources to be there for each other. It's not just about us trying to find some copium. It's about us recognizing that we're not going to get the support that we need when we need it. And I do want to ask you a bit more. So big earthquake comes. What is informing your thoughts around us getting disaster relief? Like how do you think that would get impacted by what's going on right now?
Yes, it's my biggest fear. On election day 2016, I was like, oh, well, so much for our multi-state international plan. In 2016, we did a major disaster exercise that included, so that graph showed that it's a 600, 700 mile area from the north part of California to British Columbia. So there was this giant exercise where after they had written a comprehensive plan, we exercised it, and it was wonderful, and we learned, and we updated the plan and everything. And essentially it was like I said, Redmond, they don't expect a lot of damage. Mm-hmm. So the plan was for FEMA, okay, earthquake happens, and FEMA says deploy, and planes land in Redmond with supplies in 48 hours. And by then, the locals have done the assessments and prioritized who gets what first from that Redmond landing zone. So the question now is, the plan was there, put in a binder on the shelf and trained. And so now the question is, how does that get deployed? Did they dust it off? Did anybody brief current administration? are they having those conversations? And frankly, I don't know, because I'm not a Fed. And when you talk about mutual aid, that's the good news. The good news is California, Oregon, and Washington, and even the Canadians have agreements. And when communications are up and people can say, oh, this is happening in this area, well, hey, I've got a tractor, I'll send it, those kinds of things. And so there's a lot of good news in, one, hospitals did so much work. We bought the same supplies, we got the same training. We then expanded to healthcare, so there are clinics that also got involved and got part of this, the grant money. And so there's a lot of good news on the local level of being more prepared than we were. And so I wish I had an answer, because I'm scared, and I still teach people drop, cover, and hold on wherever I can.
Yeah.
But
get to a doorway.
What's that?
Get to a doorway.
The doorway has been debunked.
Has it? Oh, I'm extra fucked.
Yeah.
Alice.
Yeah, the doorway's been defunct because there were some pictures, and all the pictures really verified was that door frames are sturdy rather. It didn't prove that it was a safe place to be. It proved that the way houses are built. So drop, cover, and hold on. And that's kind of really, because I'm afraid, and I don't have the information, but I wanted to share drop, cover, and hold on. When the shaking starts, drop, because if you don't get down, you're going to be thrown down. So get down first, get under something. That's the cover. Get under something. If you don't have something to get under, cover your head. And hang on. If you are under something, hang on to it, because it's probably going to move. And you want to hang on with it.
Yeah.
And cover your head if you're out and about. You're probably safer inside, but be aware of your surroundings as you walk about, as far as whether you should flee a building. And if you flee a building, be aware of power lines coming down and that sort of thing. If you're on the beach, grab the baby and run. Do not hesitate.
Just grab a baby. If you see somebody else with a baby, grab their baby. And just run.
Yeah. Grab your baby, grab your dog, and run. Don't, to hell with your wallet. Get your butt headed up ground. And again, I don't want to scare people. I want to prepare people. So, water, food, have water and food in your home. Have water filters if you don't have room for the water.
Yeah.
And again, I want to.
Well, I do just kind of want to give you a little bit of affirmation that I feel like this is a really good way to kind of respond to the doomerism stuff. Yes, I'm coming out saying I don't have a whole lot of confidence that there would be federal aid that would protect us if the big one hit. I'd love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would gladly eat my words in front of everybody. And I'd be so grateful for it. I'd be so grateful for it. And that's great, right? But if that's the case, then we should plan as if we're on our own. And I think that seeing mutual aid spring up is kind of amazing. Alice, my landlord has turned their entire front and backyard into a community garden.
Oh, sweet.
What the shit? I can't. There are very few places in Oregon. There are very few places in Portland that I haven't walked through neighborhoods and seen community libraries just out in front of people's houses. The amount of support that this community has, and interesting, because you can't just say that the city is a community. It is a million small neighborhoods all collectively working together to support each other. It's incredible. I wish that everyone else could see this, because I've never lived anywhere else in the world that's been like this. And when I say that we ought to be involved in like mutual aid and community support, it does feel like we are planning that no matter what happens, we're going to get through this. We don't need to wait for someone to come and save us. we're going to save each other. And that's a really, really wonderful feeling. It is a breath of fresh air, because I feel like I've been conditioned to wait. I think that, when I was living in Texas, if some grand disaster were to happen, the only thing you would expect or hope for is that some, FEMA is going to show up and take care of everybody. You have to wait for somebody to come and be your savior. And I'm just not seeing that here in Portland. I'm seeing us being there for each other. And it's incredible.
Yeah, that is a wonderful point, and because that's what happens and what you do. When the shaking stops, you check yourself. Am I hurt? Then you look around the room. Who's hurt in my room? And then you check on your neighbors. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're talking about, is that ripple effect that we all do at the same time.
Yeah.
And
you better.
I met a woman.
Go ahead.
I met a woman who had been in a Berkeley earthquake and a Los Angeles earthquake, small ones that were enough to disrupt. And
You're
said
talking about
that.
Northridge.
What's that?
You're talking about Northridge, 1992, 1993, somewhere around there?
Yeah, probably. There were a couple close together, and she happened to get them both. And she said that in Los Angeles, people were selling batteries for $10 a piece. And that in Berkeley, they were barbecuing in the streets and feeding each other. And, a lot of people talk about, Ashland being Berkeley North and, that sort of thing. But Portland, yeah, and so you've spent so much time talking about building community and, with it, focused on the politics and the all the scary things that are happening, having that community. And so earthquake preparedness is one of those places to do it. There's classes that you can take for preparedness and know your neighbors and all that kind of stuff. And so thank you for the work you do on community, because it's key.
I feel like that's this right here, everybody. When I said that I don't have a lot of confidence that FEMA is coming, I'm not saying that we all need to just curl up in a ball. This is the other side of that response, and that is that we are creating the solutions. I so appreciate you giving specifics that we could talk about, because it's so important. And I'm not super involved with my neighbors, but I do know which ones are elderly and which ones I will check on. Make sure that they're not stuck under something, or make sure that they're not going hungry,
Exactly.
That alone is a big help. So. Anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Alice, I am so appreciative of you and people like you who actually get involved in much more significant ways. Thank you for what you do. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for calling in.
Thank you. And my last thing, they talk about adult learners and 20%. Drop, cover, and hold on. Say it with me.
Drop, cover, and hold on.
Cover and hold on.
Grab someone's baby and run. Don't look at doorways. Got it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice. Take care.
Bye.
All righty. Y'all, it has been a hell of an interesting episode. I am so grateful for all of the callers. Conversations were important, and I want to continue the conversation, though. If you have been deconstructing, I want to hear about it. What are you using these tools that you've worked so hard to build up on now? That's how we're going to leverage this entry point. That's how we're going to find the solutions. We need to really identify the problems. I'm going to move over to the after show because I want to hang out and talk to people in a more normal setting. I have lights in my eyes and all of that, and I like to be able to turn the lights off, turn the camera off, just hang out with people, lower stakes. So if you want to join us, the link is in the description. If you like the show, like and subscribe. If you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. Every little bit goes right back into making sure that we've got call lines for people to call in toll free, that the programs that we're using to stream this are all paid for, and all of that good stuff. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. We are going to be talking about performative allyship with Atticus next week. I'm excited about it. I hope to see you there. Until next time, I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation. And we got a super chat. Jay Klein sent $10. Thank you, Jay. Says, thank you for giving me a space where I can feel some sanity in this insane world. Thank you, Jay. I'm glad you have this space. And I'm glad we had this talk. Bye, everybody.